Anytime you're shortcutting it, you're probably cheating some people. Players play. Tough players win.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Centered Podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time ever, my name is Anthony Ianni. I am a former Michigan State basketball player, as well as the first Division I college basketball player in NCAA history with an autism diagnosis. If you'd like to hear more episodes of the Centered Podcast, you can check us out on iTunes, Spotify, and Odyssey.com. If you also like to see our video interviews or today's video interview, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Centered Podcast. Also, hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. I know I definitely did enjoy it with being family, friends. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July as well. And happy birthday, America. Today on my show, I'm bringing on an individual who has had incredible success in a very young career. And this is an individual that I'm proud to know, got to know last year. He came and spoke to our kids at the Kids in the Go All-Star Hoops Camp, which I helped run. And this young man is named Armani Williams. Armani Williams is the first ever NASCAR driver with autism. And just to hear his story, I heard about his story when he raced at Michigan International Speedway a couple of years ago. And just to hear his story of what he's overcome, some of the challenges he's faced being on the spectrum to where he is now in NASCAR, it's just nothing short of incredible. So I'm super excited that we get to talk to him today. And it's the first time I've ever got to talk to a race car driver about what goes in preparation as far as race day goes, as far as workouts go. So I'm super excited for you guys to listen to this episode. So please welcome my guest, Armani Williams. Let's do it. All right, so first thing off the bat, man, how you been?
I've been doing pretty good. I'm finally got finished my junior year in college, so I'm about to be a senior in the fall. Crazy how college flies by like a snap of a finger like that. And just during the summer, just looking to, get back on the job and even do some more racing this summer, still working on some things with sponsorship, funding and things like that, so I can get back on the track and, continue to show, everyone that, people with autism can do amazing things. And, right now that's just been my sole focus at this point. But right now, can't lie, life is good for me.
I'm glad to hear that, man. And you mentioned the autism piece. So let's kind of back up a little bit. So you're originally from, Grosse Pointe, which you're still at right now, I assume. So you were diagnosed at 2. So kind of tell us, what were some of the things that your parents kind of noticed, that they saw with you kind of leading up to the diagnosis, where they saw something that may have didn't look right, something was kind of off that kind of led them up to you going and getting diagnosed?
Yeah, good question, Anthony. I think the main thing from what they told me is just how unsocial I was, at least when it came to kid activities where, as kids, you see them as all energetic. They're, they talk a lot, make a bunch of noises. For me, they kind of saw as me not doing it. I was just sort of quiet and peaceful, not really being social with any of the kids that I would, associate with. And so, I think it was from that point when they knew that something wasn't right, that wasn't really doing a lot of things. I wasn't really talking a lot before, they had to, go take me to a diagnosis and realize that, I had autism. And again, me being as a kid, I didn't even know what I have. I'm just thinking I'm just a regular kid that's just different, not like everybody else. Maybe, nothing's wrong. It's just some people's personalities are just different. They're not all the same, but, eventually, later on in my childhood, they eventually told me that I had autism. So, I think it was just the social interaction aspect is what they really found daunting for me, just as a very young child into this world. you know, and something that eventually they relate to me. And so, you know, I had to figure out how to overcome it throughout my life.
So you mentioned, you know, as a kid, you really didn't think about it as much. Like you said, you were talking about how you were just kind of living life as a normal kid. Were there ever times, especially like say in elementary or middle school, was there ever a time where you kind of said something that was a little bit different than everybody else, and they just, and some of your classmates, or even maybe your teachers, just didn't quite pick up, didn't try and quite pick up what you were trying to say at all?
Yeah, I mean, there may have been some. I can't really quite remember, but I think it was just more from like a behavioral standpoint with me, you know, just the way I would try to connect with people, try to socially like talk to people, you know, is what some kids and maybe some teachers found kind of, you know, different. I mean, some kind of saw it sort of kind of quirky, maybe a little weird, but, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some just saw me as like somebody that, excuse me, that could probably just use a little helping hand, you know, a little help per se, you know. And at least throughout my elementary and then even going through my middle school, there's times where like, you know, I would have to meet with you know, another teacher in like almost a private room, just like learn speech. So kind of like a little bit of a speech therapy thing, you know, just of, you know, mainly how like learn the basics of how, you know, you have conversations with people, how you can socially interact with people, you know, making sure that, you know, you open yourself out and that you're not like shy away from anything. And so eventually, like the more I did it, the more I kind of felt a little comfortable with it, you know, and I just try to just open my personality a lot more. And eventually, you know, other kids sort of took a liking to that. And, you know, I've been able to make more friends because of it. So, I mean, I think just a little bit of that assistance, a little bit of that help where people may have thought it was kind of weird from how I would approach people. Now, like, kind of see it as, you know, a little more unique, you know, that, you know, people get to really see who you actually are.
What were some of the things that, you know, you worked on with your speech teachers? Because for me, you know, exactly like you, like I would have speech twice a week from kindergarten up until my junior year of high school. And we did all sorts of different things. Like we played like, me and my speech teacher, that is, we would play board games, competitive games. We worked on worksheets when I was in middle school, just, you know, just to kind of like talk about the different nouns, verbs, and idioms. Because that was my biggest struggle and still is this day being on the spectrum, Armani. It's just dealing with sarcasm and jokes. The idiom piece when I was young, like if you had told the 5-year-old me it was raining cats and dogs outside, the majority of the population knows that raining cats and dogs means it's raining really hard outside. Where
Right. Yeah.
if you would have told the 5-year-old me that, I would have ran out my front door here in my kitchen and hoping that a cat or a dog was actually going to fall from the sky, you know, because that's how literal I took things. So some of the things that my speech teachers did with me was asking me questions, you know, by playing board games. Well, do you remember what were some of the things that you worked on with your speech teachers? And like, did they kind of like I mentioned, like, was there any like board games involved, or was it like mostly like worksheets involved? Like, do you remember what kind of things they did with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I had to deal with those as well, but I think they were more like kind of separate incidents. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
like I think throughout elementary, throughout middle school, and then even high school, I would always have like sort of like a helper or sort of assistant that would walk to me for every class that I would be in, just so like they could help me at least pay attention to class more, you know, make sure I had like rotes written down, you know, and it's just sort of helped me with sort of the work season, sort of directions they're asking us to do, just so, you know, I can do certain problems right, you know. So at
Right.
least like during the classroom, you know, I had that kind of help. But, you know, as far as like the board games and stuff, yeah, I mean, I had that, you know, growing up as a kid, you know, like elementary and middle school, like sometimes, you know, I would be with a bunch of kids that would have disabilities. Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
would play board games, you know, sometimes we go outside, play a little Foursquare. Sometimes we do some, you know, games in the gym, you know, because you know, from my elementary, I think the room we're in, we were right near the gym. So sometimes we'd do like little gym activities, you know, kind of like, you know, be in a circle, whether that's playing duck, duck, goose or, you know, played a little dodgeball, which, you know, as a kid, that was my favorite gym game growing up. You know, who doesn't love dodgeball, where you could just
Right.
throw a ball at somebody, you know? Just so, you know, it just in case, you know, you don't want to hurt the guy, but you just want to get a guy out, you know? So, I mean, those kind of activities, I had the same growing up, you know, and it sort of gave me an understanding of just what other kids had to deal with as well. And knowing that, you know, I wasn't the only one that had some struggles too. You know, these other kids I would, you know, play with all the time, you know, they would have the same struggles too. So, I mean, it was just more of like, you know, getting to know each other, you know, how we can, you know, work well with each other, you know, how can we connect, you know, and those are fun times, you know, at least for kids that you can relate to.
So kind of talk about elementary school a little bit. You know, just kind of talk about those years leading up in the middle school. Like, were there ever times where you ever got frustrated with yourself in the classroom? Was there ever time that you felt like you were going to have a wig out moment? And, you know, I think the biggest question I want to ask is, did you ever endure any bullying in elementary school at all?
That's a good question. You know, I would say at times I was frustrated, but I think it was like probably more of like when I didn't get a certain thing done, like homework, or, you know, like I wanted to get, you know, I wanted maybe some sort of activity or some type of thing. I can't remember, but like if I didn't get like the final two or the final step, you know, done, you know, before everybody else was already done, you know, at times I would be frustrated because it's like, man, why am I, like, why did I not make it in time? You know, like, you know, how did these other kids, you know, get done before I was, you know? And then I think like the bullying part, I mean, yeah, sure. Maybe there was a little bit of it, but not much, just because people couldn't really understand me very well. You know, like, you know, other kids were kind of like normal kids of how they would normally act like. And I was just a different kind of kid. I didn't really talk a lot, that just wasn't very socially interactive. And, you know, sometimes it contributed to some kids making fun of me a little bit, just because of, you know, who I was and, you know, what I had. And, you know, they probably had no idea that I had autism, or, you know, sometimes they didn't care, you know, they just kind of judged you from how you act like, you know, and the things you do. And sometimes that did get to me a little bit. I was frustrated, you know, because I mean, I feel like no matter what you have, you know, everybody's different in their own way, but everybody's different and unique in their own way as well. And so sometimes I wish, you know, there was a way where I could have like connect with kids in elementary school better, like what things I could have done to just kind of get them to like me, or like, you know, what things could I do to where, like, you know, I can, you know, connect with some things that other kids like, so I can make friends and that sort of say. So, you know, it was a difficult time, but I mean, again, you know, life is always filled with difficulties, whether, you know, especially being a kid growing up, you know, and so that's just something that I had to face and, you know, eventually overcome it. I figure out, you know, just how to connect with people, and I've been able to make a lot of friends along the way. So, I mean, you know, that was kind of how my elementary went about.
You know, I want to go back to what you said there. You talked about how everybody in the world is unique in their own way and they have their own traits. And I kind of wish that that's something that folks would understand in the world today, is that why would you want to try to bully or disrespect somebody when you haven't been in their shoes before? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So like for you and me, like if we were bullied growing up as kids, in which I was, you know, a lot because of my autism, and I talk to a lot of kids around the country about bullying, and I've had kids say to me, why do I get bullied for having ADD? Why do I get bullied for having autism? Why do I get bullied for having ADHD or this disability? And I have kids get so emotional about it. And I've always been the advocate of saying, until you understand what somebody goes through in life, until you yourself have walked in their shoes, you know, why say anything at all? You know, what is the purpose of it, you know? And so, and obviously you are a big advocate of that for sure, of growing up, overcoming a lot and dealing with a lot in elementary school, like you talked about, to see where you're at today. And I do want, and obviously we'll talk about your racing career here pretty soon, but so growing up in Grosse Pointe, what were some of the things that you like to do growing up as a kid?
Um, Probably spend more time with my family, probably play a lot of video games per se. I mean, I think in Grosse Pointe, when we were in such an open neighborhood where, there was a bunch of kids that I would go to school at, sometimes we, play a little football in the front yard and things of that nature. Like I think one time, you know, I think a couple times, during the football season, whenever Michigan and Michigan State to play against each other, no matter who's home or whoever away, I would, because I knew like most of my friends, this is kind of more here in Grosse Pointe. It's kind of like more Michigan State country than it is like Michigan country. Like I grew up as a Michigan fan, but I knew some of my friends kind of like Michigan State. So a couple times I would invite them to my house just so we could watch the game, like I think it'd just be a fun social thing to do, so those are kind of times I had growing up. But really, yeah, I mean, it's just once I grew up in Grosse Pointe, it just seemed like people kind of like welcome me more just because I just didn't grew up around here, like I was kind of more in the Ann Arbor, Manchester, Michigan area. But as soon as I came to Grosse Pointe, I could not believe just how many friends I would make within like a week or so. It's just like everybody kind of welcomed me, and we kind of did a lot of activities, going to the pool, football, hang out at people's houses. And so at least that part, like growing up in Grosse Pointe, it was such a fun time for me as a kid.
So I'll definitely let you off the hook for being a Michigan fan. My wife would love you though. She's a huge Michigan fan. But I gotta ask, like, were you kind of when you invite all your friends over to watch Michigan State, Michigan, whether it be football or basketball, were you kind of the only Michigan fan in the room at the time?
I think there might have been like one or two that were Michigan,
Okay.
but like for the majority, I would say they were Michigan State fans. But I mean, I don't think it didn't matter. I mean, come on, like rivalries, sometimes you got to make a little good with it, and so we're watching a game, you're just hoping that your team wins at the end. I think one time Michigan did win, and then the other time Michigan State win. But really, like what I really cared about is that I got to hang out with my friends that I would hang out a lot, and especially at school. Like it didn't matter like what team they were cheering for. What was important for me is that I got to hang out with the friends that I truly cared about. And so that was more important than anything.
And that's the one thing, Armani, I wish, in my opinion, that's why I wish both sides of each fan base would understand is like, the rivalry, in my opinion, like I think our rivalry with Michigan is right up there with like Duke, North Carolina, like Harvard and Yale, Army, Navy, all those great rivalries.
Yeah.
And I just wish sometimes like the fan bases wouldn't just take it too far sometimes. Whereas, like you said, enjoy your time with your friends, whether they like Michigan or Michigan State. Enjoy your time with them. If your team wins, does it stink? Yeah, it absolutely stinks. But at the end of the day, if you have a good time with your friends, whether it's at the game or at home watching it, I mean, like you said, you can't beat that. That's the most important thing, like out of everything right there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's just like at the end of the day, we just gotta like have fun, doing what we're doing, just enjoy the fun time we're having, and let's not worry about what side we're on, like whatever is considered something fun or like something that brings us all together. Let's just enjoy that part of it rather than having to pick and choose sides. It's just, yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to spin a positive to it instead of a negative to offense like that.
Amen, my friend. Amen. So did you ever play before you got involved and interested in racing? Did you ever play like basketball or football or baseball or any other different sports before you got an interest in racing?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, like I think it was during the time in middle school, I mean, I was still racing. I kind of figured, maybe there was more activities that I could do. So, I mean, I think in middle school, I started playing. I wanted to play on a football team, like an actual football team where we're actually playing games that count, So I played in middle school in football, and then I played a couple years of football in high school. and also did some track and fields as well, like I just wanting to try and run and get like, my physical conditioning and stamina up, I mean, at least when I look back at it today and see what I have to deal with it racing and at a high level, doing those kind of sports kind of help me like physically and mentally, just what things go on. So I did play a couple sports back in my day, and I think football, at the very least, I'm fortunate enough to only get like one touchdown out of it. Like it was a game that we were blown out and we wanted to get something good out of it, last second play, and I'm going on a fade route, and like the quarterback throws me the ball. I beat the cornerback. I didn't get much separation, but at least I got ahead, caught the football. Next thing I know, I turn around and I'm like, oh dang, I'm in the end zone. I just scored it. And everybody starts running into me because like we struggled to score all night, and I scored and I helped us score the only points we ever had in that game. So I'll keep that in my book. So, but track and fields, at least being able to run. I always wanted to do the sprints, just being able to run fast, kind of like Sonic Hedgehog fast, those 70, 100 meter sprints. So I did a lot of that in my day.
So when did you start becoming interested in racing?
Oh yeah, I mean that was such a long time ago. That was when I was a very young child. Being a kid, I kind of just love cars in general. Like you go to the store. I always wanted to look at the next Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars that they have. Just go get it and start playing with them at home in my mom or dad's kitchen counter on the floor. Sometimes my grandparents' kitchen counter too. Like I would have a whole collection of cars I would love to play with. And then one day, someone mentioned to me about NASCAR. I think it was my dad or something. And I thought, oh, wow, that's very cool. I want to check it out. And they would always play it on the weekends on TV, mostly on Sundays. And, first time I watched it, I was just blown away at just how fast these cars were going. I mean, 180, 190 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? I mean, you can't even do that on the highway, it's illegal. So these cars are just flying, it's cool to see just how cool the cars look with their paint schemes and things of that nature. And so, it really drove my interest more to where I was going from just liking cars to then I really like this racing type deal, and at the time I wasn't sure this is something I really wanted to do, but it was just, the more I watched, the more it was just drawing into me that, oh yeah, I want to do what those guys are doing. I wanted to be a professional race car driver. And I even told my dad straight up, like I think when I was 7 or 8 years old, and that's kind of how my racing career, kind of kicked off, and starting from, go-karts, mini cups to ARCA Truck Pro Series to getting up in NASCAR and racing up in Canada in 2017, which I was just fortunate enough to get that kind of exposure from NASCAR to where like they can give me an opportunity to race against the pros, race against the best in Canada, to then come back to NASCAR and K&N to the ARCA Menards Series, and got the chance to race at a hometown track at Michigan International Speedway last year that I got to see a few times as a fan, but now actually racing on it. That was a pretty cool deal. And now moving up, being part of the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series. And so, it's been quite a long journey, but, it's just something that I've wanted to do since I was a young child, and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
So how old were you when you had your first race, and how fast were you driving in that race?
I got to say, I was probably like maybe 10 years old. I think it was like their last karting race of the year, and so we wanted to get in there just to, see what I can do in an actual race, and in the go-karts, we were running on like a small road course. We must have been going like, I think like 50, 60 miles an hour or something like that. I can't quite tell. I mean, we didn't even have speedometers in those go-karts, we were just kind of going as fast as we possibly can, and of course we had to slow down as well. So if I remember correctly, we were going like 50, 60 miles an hour, which to me, like I've been to amusement parks where they have go-karting attractions, and you know, going at the speed we were going in, like in an actual go-kart, wasn't really that bad. But you know, I think later on when I got into the stock cars, finally, you know, in the Mini Cup, which were like a half-size version of a stock car, those we had to be going like 180, 190 in those things, you know. And you know, what's interesting is that the first race I ran in Mini Cup, I mean, I think it was at like Mossville, Michigan, at a track, Mossville Speedway. They had to get a relief driver because they were afraid that I would be afraid of the speeds. You know, I mean, I've gone 50 miles an hour on a go-kart. What is it going to be like for me going 80 to 90 miles an hour in a Mini Cup, you know? And sure enough, like that the speed didn't really bother me at all. And, you know, we were able to win my race, and in the future, coming from the back to finishing second, which like if I had like 5 or 6 laps on the guy that finished first behind me, I would have got by him and won the race, you know? So, you know, really the speeds didn't really bother me at all. I mean, I think it's just a product of, you know, you practice, you do it a lot more, you get used to, you know, speeds and things happening so fast that like, it don't matter how fast you want to go, like it just didn't bother me at all.
What kind of adrenaline rush do you get from going, like you said, anywhere from 180 to 200 miles an hour? Like me, like I think the fastest I've ever driven a car, I think is maybe like 85. Like I've never pushed 100 in my life, nor do I want to. But I mean, like you talk about, you went from 50 to 60 mile an hour karts when you were younger. Fast forward to like, you know, 7 years later, 6 years later, whatever it was, and now you're driving up to 180, 200 miles an hour. First of all, how do you not lose? And I want to make sure I say this right. How do you not get like so much motion sickness? Like, how does your stomach like not go from, you know, your stomach to the front and then to your spine? Like, because I gotta feel like that's a better ride than riding a roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's not for everyone, but I mean, hey,
Right.
you know, it's just when racing comes from your heart, you know, and you kind of like feel the sensation it is from when you fire that engine up, you know, and you're ready to go out there. You know, for me, I just kind of see it as like, you know, being in a car is just my comfort zone. You know, it's just what I love. It's always been my passion. And, you know, like, it don't matter what speed I'm going at, you know, like all I'm focused on is just, you know, going as fast as I possibly can and driving as hard as I possibly can, you know. And I mean, at least being in a race car, because, you know, how heavy the cars are and like going at those speeds, a lot of things are happening so fast that not only do you have to prepare yourself mentally, but you have to prepare yourself physically, you know, because, you know, of course, you don't want to get into any type of incidents, but when you do, you know, it can take a strain in your body, you know, which is why, you know, all the physical work that you have to do, whether it's on your shoulders, whether it's on your upper body, your legs, even your neck, especially like, I don't know if you know, but like when you're going at those speeds and like, especially when you go to slow down, you know, the G-forces, you have no idea just how much it can move around your head, you know. It's just like it's crazy. Like even in Michigan, like I had to get an extra padding because I wanted to make sure I lean my head to the left instead of right. Like it would literally pull me to the right, you know, every time I go through a turn, you know. So I mean, again, it's the physical and mental aspect of racing that, you know, if you haven't done it before, you know, then you really need to get yourself in tip-top shape, you know, because it's going to happen more times than not, you know. And so, you know, those are the important things of being a race car. And it's also important when you get in the type of race cars that I've been getting. And, you know, but of course, at the same time, you got to love, you know, doing what you're about to do, you know. And so that's kind of how it is for me. You know, the adrenaline rush like can sometimes kick in before you get in a race car because you never know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's just like, for me, once I get in a race car, I'm just kind of like in the zone. You know, I'm just, you know, ready with my game face on. Let's just go do this, baby.
So kind of talk quickly about the preparation, you know, that goes on a race day. Like, you know, what's kind of like your routine for when race day happens?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think on a race day, most of the time, I always like to, connect with, my pit crew, like who's on my team, get to know them a little bit, get to talk to them a little about the car, just seeing like, how the thing's set up and what we're up against, and then sometimes when I need a little time for myself, I kind of like to sit in a hauler, get my phone, my headphones, and just get a little music going. Like for me, any song that pumps me up, I think it may be hip hop. Sometimes it could be rock. I think like,
okay,
if I had to choose between the two, if you had to ask me between the two, I think it'd probably be rock. I mean, just like what can you go wrong with that? Like any sort of rock with like the guitar riff, it just makes you want to like, it just gets you fired up. It makes you want to, okay, when are we going to get in the car? Let's just go race. Let's go race right now.
Let's get going, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's fire these engines up and let's get on the track. Let's go, so I kind of like to listen to music, get to spend time with, people in the garage, whether it's drivers, whether it's, potential sponsors and even my team, that's sort of the preparation, that I go through. And especially like, when it comes to practice and qualifying, I have to get a good feeling of just what do we got under the hood of this car? How does the car handle, just so we can understand what, if we need to make any changes to make it better for race day or qualifying or whatever, So, I mean, a lot of those things come in hand in terms of how race day normally goes for me.
What's kind of like you mentioned, you love listening to rock, you love listening to hip hop. What's kind of like your favorite part outside? What's kind of like the favorite part of your routine leading up to the race? Because for me, like my favorite part was like you mentioned, you would talk, amongst, your pit crew, kind of get to know the track. I think for me, one of my favorite parts, for pregame rituals or whatever was just not only just listening to music, but just kind of like goofing around with my teammates, during warm-ups before we got serious after that. Because I think that was one of the things I enjoyed a lot, was just being around my teammates and the camaraderie we had. But what was kind of like your favorite highlight of like, your pregame or your pre-race ritual, if you will, outside of listening to music?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think really, yeah, I mean, if I had to choose anything, I think it was just, at times when we'd have the car line up for whether it was practice or qualifying or the starting grid. I mean, I think the highlight for me was just, getting to sit behind the car, just waiting to hop in, get to feel the car to know, like, what is this car got in me, like, will this car hold for me if I have to push it or have to go to the very limit, like I just kind of, I just always like to be around a car just so, like I could almost become one, that we could connect in some way, engage before we get back in a car. So that way, we can, give it all we got, just being behind a car, just waiting until, we have to hop in would be a highlight for me.
So for me, like I do a lot of traveling, and I think, I've driven 12 hours before. I've driven from Detroit to Charlotte because my wife has family down there. So I made that trip before. But there comes a time where you have to make a pit stop, where you got to make a pit stop at a gas station, fill up, get lunch, dinner, whatever, and a time for me to stretch out my legs. What kind of preparation do you have in order to prepare? Because races can go like anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, I would imagine, around that time. I could be wrong. But that's a lot of time sitting in a car. So like, and I think I asked you this question last summer when we first met, but how do you prepare for that? Like what kind of things, like, do you have to like, do you like do like a lot of wall sits if you have to work out and lift in order to prepare your legs to sit in the car for that long? Like, how do you prepare yourself for all that?
Yeah. So, I mean, normally, I would try to find myself a gym and just kind of work out like my body physically. Sometimes I would go out for a run for a mile or two, but just mainly like when I go to work out, if it had to be for lifting weights or whatever, I would kind of work more of my arms because I'm having to work my arms for 3 or 4 hours, just trying to turn the car, my upper body, my shoulder, I want to make sure my shoulders are strong enough to where like it can handle, the drooling hot hours of just 100 to 200 lap race, you know, and especially my neck too, because of the G forces we have to pull.
Right, right.
But then, you know, I even have my own simulator at home, you know, whenever there's any race that I was going to be in, I would try to hop that thing as many times as I can, get as many hours and practice I can, just so I can learn more about the track in a particular vehicle that I'm going to drive, and just know what to expect before I do the real thing, you know. So that kind of preparation is what I pride myself with, you know, making sure like I keep my body in shape, keep my stamina in check, you know, and then also get some time behind the wheel, just learning about the track, learning about how the car is going to react to the track, you know, so that way you have a pretty good idea just how to get around the place in real time, you know. I mean, so that's kind of sort of the preparation I take, you know, and I think it certainly has helped me for every race that I've been in, you know. I mean, at least for like, I think 10 or 20 years ago, like without those simulators, I think I would have gone in, try to ask any driver who knew this racetrack more than me, just how exactly do you get around here? Like, where do you guys brake? Where do you get back on the gas? Where do you turn? But, you know, heck, I mean, with these simulators, you know, I mean, it kind of just puts all that stress down, because you kind of know like what's going to happen or what's going on, you know? So, you know, that's sort of the preparation I take, you know, and it makes it easier when it comes to race weekend.
You know, you know, what you said I thought was very interesting. How, you know, you asked the question of, is this car going to be able to handle this track? Is it going to be able to take it? Like, so when it comes to racing, like, do you ever like, I want to make sure I ask this the right way, because again, this is all fascinating stuff, man, because this is kind of like the first time I've gotten like the inside scoop of what race day is like for race car drivers. Like, you are the first race car driver I've had on my podcast. So like when you talk about getting a feel for a track and making sure the car is, you know, okay for the track, like, are all tracks like different, like when it comes to like the pavement, or just like how they are, or is it like, or are they all the same in some ways?
Oh no, they're definitely different in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, you got tracks that are smaller, which we consider like short tracks, you know, but then you got tracks that are like 1 or 1.5 miles. Those are the much longer and faster tracks that you go around, or even a super speedway where you're just going wide open. You know, you're not having to lift off the gas. You're just flooring it wide open, you know, tracks like Daytona or Talladega, you know. So, I mean, I think, like, you'll always want to approach each track as if, like, you know, they're different, that, you know, you can't drive it the same as you can, you know, you can, you know, drive, like, especially with the vehicle that you're driving, you know, sometimes you can't drive the vehicle a certain way, you know, like the way you brake, the way you get back on the gas, the way the cars handle aerodynamically. Sometimes you have to be able to adapt just how a race car is going to react to the track. And, you know, most of the time you'll find tracks that are like, you know, whether it's asphalt, sometimes there's tracks that are concrete. I think like the concrete one would probably be the more difficult ones, you know, especially like if it's a track that's been around for so long and you're having to deal with the bumps. It can take a grueling on your car and even on your body, you know, and sometimes there's just, you know, not a lot of grip to it, you know. So yeah, you got to be able to, you know, make your car work, make sure, you know, you can get your car around without having to spin around or anything, you know, and same for asphalt too, you know. So, I mean, you always want to approach each track as if like they're different. You always want to approach each track where you know that you can't drive it the same as you've always been. You got to drive it a certain way in order to be fast, in order to keep up with everybody. So that way, you know, you have a chance to, you know, have yourself a good day, or have a chance to win the race too, if you're ever in good position to do it.
See, that's interesting, because you said a concrete track is probably the hardest to drive on. I always thought, and again, I've never driven a race car in my life. I always thought like a dirt track would be tough to race on.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's dirt tracks around, and the reason why I didn't say that is because I hadn't driven on dirt before, you know, but like, of course, there's drivers that have raced on dirt. I mean, like, the fact that, you know, you have to learn to get your car a little sideways and even keep it sideways for a long period of time, you know, that takes a lot of skill to do that, you know. And so, Yeah, I mean, just from my experience, that's why I said that, like, you know, concrete would be like a little different, like probably not the easiest to drive, but you're right. Like if you race down a dirt track, that's even harder, you know, just the fact that, you know, you you got to get those cars to turn even sideways, but then just to
Right.
keep it sideways, that's everything with the braking and how you turn the steering wheel, how you get back on the gas to keep the momentum up, just to keep the car drifting around. You know, it's very difficult to do.
Right, for sure.
Very difficult to do. Yeah.
So when did when did you find out, or who told you, when did you know that when you entered the NASCAR, when you got into NASCAR, when did you find out that you were the first known individual with autism in NASCAR history with autism?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, after I got done, you know, because I even went through this program, the NASCAR Driver Diversity program, you know, and it was made of drivers like me, African American,
Mhm.
female, and, you know, even drivers not from this country. And, you know, it was formed by a K&N team, Rev Racing, you know, and even though I didn't get invited to be a part of their, like, at least I didn't get accepted to be on their team, you know, to run the full
Mhm.
season. NASCAR kind of saw that exposure and saw the potential in me. And, you know, they eventually gave me an opportunity, like not in the US, but they knew that they could give me an opportunity up in Canada, the NASCAR
Mhm.
Pinty Series. And, you know, like from there, that's when all the news, that's when all the, you know, media, whatever you call it, you know, that's when I kind of figured that, yeah, you know, I finally made history, something that's never been done in sports. A driver who has this kind of disability, like they've had drivers that are African Americans, they've had, you know,
Right.
Latino drivers before, you know, drivers that come from Formula One or
Mhm.
any car, but never did they have a driver that had this sort of disability that I had, that was able to make his dream come true and, you know, be racing in NASCAR. You know, I mean, once I kind of heard and saw the type of impact and things that I did, you know, it's just, yeah, pardon my dog there.
You're good, man.
She's on the lookout duty. So every time she's at a window, you know, see somebody, you know, she'll bark. So don't mind that. But
No worries, man.
um, yeah, like that's when I knew, like, I did something that was pretty remarkable, something that people thought was impossible. And so, you know, I was really proud of that.
You, like you said, you were proud of it. Like, how did you feel overall, though? You mentioned proud, but what other feelings did you have when you found out about that?
Just joyful, you know, I mean, just like, just felt thankful for, you know, all the people that helped me get to where I had to be today. You know, like even my parents, like they've always had support in me ever since I told them that I wanted to be a race car driver. And knowing what kind of sport racing is, they could have easily said no, do something else, you know,
Right.
whatever. Just, you know, racing is not like any sport in the world, but like they understood that it's something that I wanted to do, you know, and they were always trying to find things that I love to do. And, you know, if racing was something I enjoy, they wanted to support me however way they can, you know, do whatever they could to help me achieve my dream. And, you know, here I am today, you know, just trying to move up through the ranks and, you know, make a career out of myself, you know, for something that I'm really passionate about. And, you know, I was just so thankful for all the people that helped me, like my family and, you know, even some business people that like, and the people that I race against who kind of believed in me and helped me keep pushing forward. And so, you know, just joyful and just more thankful, you know, because I don't think it would have been possible without the support that they've given me.
And that's what that's what life should always be about, is that you should have that support system to have your back. And I've always told people, like, all you need is one person in your corner to support you to get to where you want to go in life. And I've met your mom. Your mom's a sweetheart, man. I love her. I haven't met your dad yet. We got to make sure we get that done soon. But
Right. Yeah.
you just have an incredible group of parents who never gave up on you. And then you had a lot of teachers, and you had some, incredible friends along the way who supported you and watched you, run your races. it's just been incredible, and getting to know you has been nothing but short of fun, man. It's been great texting you all the time. And I do want to ask you a couple questions, and then we're going to get into the really fun part of the podcast here, which I think you'll like.
All right.
You mentioned you raced at MIS, Michigan International Speedway. Talk about that experience, getting to race at MIS in your home state.
It was awesome. Like, at least when I got the news that, like the sponsor I had at the time was Cynthia Autism, that we could make a race work at Michigan. I couldn't have been as excited as I was. I mean, that was a track where as a kid I've been through a few times, at least like the first time I ever went to Michigan International Speedway, my dad picked me up from school. And, as soon as I got in the car, he was like, I got a surprise for you. And, so we're leaving the school and we're driving. I have no idea what's going on, but I know he has a surprise for me. And eventually it got to a point where we were driving for a long period of time. And I'm like, Dad, where the heck are we going? Like, where are we, And
MIS is out in the middle of nowhere. It's like a country field.
Right. Like kind of like a little countryside of Michigan, with all the trees and the woods and everything. And so lo behold, we were at MIS and I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, you didn't have to do this. But I mean, it was just so exciting. And Michigan's such a large track, and even getting out of the car, you could just hear the cars flying by. I think it was a practice session, but really for me, I didn't care. I was just happy to finally go to a track in person, just see the cars just fly by in front of us. And then I think the very next year, we got to go see a race there in the Cup Series. Mm-hmm. And then, the third time I went, I got a chance to do the Rusty Wallace experience. Now, of course, I was kind of bummed out because I didn't get to drive the car because I was underage. I was like 14 at the time, So, of course, they weren't going to let me drive the car, even though I was a race car driver myself. I had to be in the passenger seat. But just the thrill of, like, I think we were going 180 miles an hour, but man, we were flying like a rocket ship, man. I was having a blast, and, I mean, just putting all those memories together. To then finally last year, I get to race at a track that I watched as a kid. And, not only did I want to race at MIS, but I wanted to do really good at MIS. I mean, of course, with the car I had, we knew like we could get a top 10 out of it if we just stayed out of trouble. And, at the end of the day, I think we ended up finishing 10th, so getting a top 10 finish at a home track though, was really cool for me. I was just glad that I was able to do what I do and, get to race in Michigan finally. And hopefully I get to do it again and, do even better. Like we got 10th. Now I need to get 9 more spots to go to first at that track. I mean, it's a different feeling unlike any big race that you've been in the world. Whenever you can have a chance to race at a track that's right near you from where you grew up at, there's just always something special to it. It just gives you that motivation to, want to do well there, push yourself to want to do well there as well. And so, I mean, for me, it was just a fun time, and I got to go really fast as well. Like, I think right now I've broken my fastest top speed mark. I think we were going like 195, almost 200 at some point in that race. So, at least I broke my record for like how fast I actually went. So I'm kind of happy about that.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, man. My dad, the first time I went to MIS was 11 years ago in 2010. And that was the first ever, racetrack I ever been to, and the first ever race NASCAR race I ever seen. And I'll never forget, like you talked about, those cars just flying around the corner. Phew, 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 phew. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is intense. Like I had a lot of fun. And, I think I told you last year, the next time you race at MIS, I plan on being there for it. Because like you talk about, you finished 10th, but the day you finish first, it's going to be a historical day for you, man. It will be.
Yeah. And, it was kind of a little unfortunate too, because like, it was a COVID year and the pandemic that we had to deal with. And so certain tracks, they didn't allow fans at all. So, I mean, I don't know. I would imagine what it would be like, if we had fans at that track too. And, I even forgot to mention that the first time I went to that track too, it's different to how you're watching the cars fly by on TV versus in person. And like the first time they flew by, man, like, because I was really noise sensitive then. I really hated loud noises. So they were so loud that I needed to have my dad like give me some sort of earplugs or headphones. So at least I could get through the day at the racetrack seeing these cars fly by without having to be bothered by noises. So, I mean, but yeah, like that race from last year, it's just, it would have been a little better if we had fans, but, we understand what we had to go through last year, but, at least this year, things are getting a little bit better, with vaccines being distributed, everybody can get a vaccine, and get fully vaccinated. So we can return back to the normal life that we all know. And so,
Amen.
I mean, it's just hopefully next time we have an event like that at MIS.
Amen, brother. Last question I want to ask you, and then we'll have some fun here.
All
so
right.
What is the end goal for you as a professional race car driver? Is it to be up there with the Bubba Wallaces of the world, to race with those guys, to be at Talladega, Daytona? Is that the end goal for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's always been the ultimate goal to me. It's just I want to go as far as to the NASCAR Cup Series of, like you said, racing at Talladega, being with Bubba Wallace, being with the Joey Logano's, the Kevin Harvicks, the Kyle Busch. Like I want to be up there where their guys are at, but understanding like where, life and opportunities can take you only so far,
Right.
I mean, sometimes it may not happen, but that don't mean, you can't stop pushing, like I'm going to continue to push just to see if I can get to the very top. And when I do, just to make a successful career out of it, just do well at what I do, but, trying to keep things realistic, because right now I'm in the top 3 level division so far, at least
right.
with the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, still working on trying to get a few races this year, like that, the year is still possible for me. And then, try to move up and see where it takes me, whether it's moving up in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, where it's second level, and then eventually the Cup. But like at the very least, I'm just happy I got to NASCAR's top 3 division, and, just see where that takes me as far as I can only go, and at the same time just be successful at it.
Well, I have no doubt, man, that you are going to get there. You are going to have an incredible career, from today until the day you retire, whenever that is. Hopefully it's not for a long, long time, man.
Yeah, I sure hope so too. I mean, it just, you never know how long you're going to be doing it for. Everybody likes to do something they love for a long time, but,
Sure.
Sometimes it just doesn't always happen, but, you always want to keep trying to make sure that that possibility like is still wide open, and that, you can be doing what you have a passion for a long time, and yeah, just never stop,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You ready to have some fun?
Yeah, let's have some fun, baby.
All right, man. So we have 10 rapid fire questions for you. Now, Armani, these are,
oh boy.
And these are also goofy, okay?
Oh, okay.
Question number 1, I like to call it the Masters question. Like the Masters in golf, it is a tradition unlike any other. Question number 1, strawberry or grape jelly?
Oh man. Well, I probably go with maybe grape jelly, just because of the,
Okay.
I just like grape more than strawberry. Strawberry is like the least favorite date I have, so I would probably go with grape jelly.
Okay. Question number 2, your favorite racetrack you would like to race at?
Oh, no doubt, Daytona International Speedway. I mean, are you kidding me? The Daytona 500 that happens every year, the biggest race of them all. Daytona 500 all day, every day, man.
All right, I like that.
Day, yeah.
Question number 3, who is your favorite superhero and why?
Oh, I would kind of like Batman. I just like kind of like that calm, tough demeanor that he has. Like kind of that deep voice, like you just never know what he's gonna do. I mean, it's just I would like Batman.
And he drives a pretty cool car too.
Oh yeah, you can't beat his Batmobile. That's for sure.
Nope, you cannot.
Right.
Question number 4: your favorite race car driver to watch growing up?
Oh, Jimmy Johnson, easily. I mean,
Good
7-time champion, but just a true champion on and off the track. I would watch him a lot. He was always my favorite driver, and even still to this day, my favorite driver. It's just he just epitomized what it means to be a true champion. And sometimes I like to implement a little bit what he has into my racing and stuff. Because he's one of my heroes.
I love that, man. I love that.
One of my heroes.
Question number 5: best motivational speaker not named Anthony Ianni.
Motivational speaker. Dang, yeah, you really got me on that one. Like I could probably, if any day, I could probably think of like a sporting event, more like football. Like I would say, I've been listening more to like our new Lions head coach Dan Campbell. Like there's just such a motivation and presence about him that screams like, yeah, like this guy truly wants to win. And heck, even after that first press conference, I wish I kept one of my high school helmets so I could just run through a wall, run through something, because I'm fired up. But when is September coming, man? I'm ready.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. So Dan Campbell, I love that. Shout out to Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
Question number 6: favorite sport to watch that is not racing?
I probably already mentioned it already. Football. I mean, just
love it.
For me, I've always liked football, just the physicality of it, just how much these athletes have to endure themselves, like just trying to get through a 16, 17 game season.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, you're out in the battlefield, just hoping to make it at the end, so it's just, I love football. Football is my favorite sport. Yeah.
It is fun to watch. It's also mine too, man.
Yeah.
Question number 7: your favorite all-time movie?
Oh, because man, I've been watching a lot of movies lately. I kind of like Top Gun.
That's a good one.
Film. I mean, I know I wasn't even around when that movie hit, but I knew like I could kind of figure why it was popular for a reason. Top Gun, Top Cruise, those fighter jets. I love that movie.
and the theme song from Top Gun, man, that gets me fired up too.
They got such an awesome soundtrack from that movie.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Danger Zone, the Top Gun theme. Oh
yeah, Danger Zone. Oh yeah, that's probably my favorite one. Danger Zone. I love this. I love it.
Question number 8, and I apologize for my doorbell ringing. So we got a doorbell ringing.
Okay.
What else is going to happen on the podcast here? Question number 8: Subway or Jimmy John's?
Subway. Whenever it's Subway, you gotta make sure you get something fresh. And Subway, if I want to get a fresh sub, it's probably Subway. And I'm not sure if they got that old $5 foot long, but I'm sure they still do. But
man.
It's not expensive, and even like their food is so good.
when I was in high school, which was about 15 years ago, and the $5 foot long deal came out, I kid you not, I bought 2 footlongs for dinner, and they were 2 footlongs for $10. Like you can't go wrong. And now you can only get like a certain kind, like the BL, like the Italian, spicy Italian, or the club for $5. I'm like, why not just do it all? You were making money off of that.
Yeah, make everything $5. Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, Taco Bell, I don't know if you eat at Taco Bell much, but Taco Bell does like these $5 boxes where you get like 2 burritos and 2 tacos. I'm like, yep, that's got me written all over it right there.
Yeah. I mean, like some of these places might have to start making like great deals for people to go
right.
Get their food, right? So yeah.
All right, we got 2 more questions here. Question number 9: if you could be any animal, what would it be and why?
Oh, I kind of thought about it for a long time, but if I were to be any animal, I kind of like to be a wolf.
Ooh.
kind of like that mixture of a dog and like little wildlife.
Yeah.
You know, like I kind of like to be a wolf, you know, per se.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, last question. Question number 10. Who do you admire the most?
Now could that be anybody like
It could be an athlete, it could be family, whoever you like, man. Who do you admire the most in life?
I mean, I gotta say, you know, like as much as I want to say my dad, I gotta say like just my family as a whole, you know, is what I admire most, just because of what I had to go through and just how much support and, you know, help they've ever given me whenever I had trouble of some kind, and knowing that they're by my corner, they're by my side, they're being there for all the ups and downs that I've been through. You know, it's just really like I couldn't admire it enough. You know, I mean, that's just why, you know, you gotta, you know, be around people that believe in you and that care for who you are, you know, and no matter what other people think, you know, like people can see, you know, another side in you that like can help like keep you going in life, you know. And so my family, like I couldn't admire anybody else other than my entire family, you know.
I love it, man. Beautiful. All right. So the last thing I'm going to have you do, I do this for all my guests on the show. I want you to give the listeners of the Center Podcast, I want you to give them your positive message of the week. Your positive message for the week for the listeners. The floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So my positive message of the week is that, you know, just, you know, don't let anybody, you know, take you down for, you know, who you are and like what you've been through. You know, just kind of use it as motivation. You know, find something that you're truly passionate about, something that you love, that you want to grow up doing, and just find the people that just believe and care about exactly who you are, and that they believe in the type of talents and how far you can take it, you know, and just continue to, you know, work hard, believe in yourself, stay encouraged, no matter what obstacle can come your way, knowing that you can find a way to overcome those obstacles if you try, you know, and that, you know, you're not willing to let things get in your way, you know, and just being able to face adversity and overcome adversity and just keep pushing forward, because life is always full of challenges. You know, life is not always easy for everybody, which means we always got to strive to, you know, be better as people, you know, and continue to be better for what we love and what we're good at, you know, and just always take it as motivation, you know, not only for what you like, but just take that for any life challenges that come by, you know. So just always believe in yourself, stay encouraged, continue to work hard at what you love to do, you know, keep striving for whatever that dream is that, you know, you imagine doing in life, you know, and just keep pushing to achieve that dream. And believing when you can do that, many, many things are possible and dreams become possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is NASCAR's first driver in history with autism, and he is my friend, Armani Williams. Armani, buddy, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a joy to, first of all, it's great to see you. It's been a minute since we saw each other. Hopefully we can get you out to the kids on the Go Camp again this summer. I know our kids and parents loved having you there. And again, man, thank you so much. I want to thank Armani Williams again for coming on to the Center Podcast today. Just an awesome person, man. And the one thing I love about Armani is he's just so humble, you know, and he thanks everybody in life for who has supported him and helped get him to where he's at today. Just an incredible human being. And like we talked about, he's only 21 years old, folks. He's only 21, and he's been doing racing for, you know, since he was 10 years old, but he's been in NASCAR for a few years now. I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be up there with the big boys. Like, he's going to do a lot of great things. He's going to be in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's going to be racing at Daytona one day. He's going to be racing at Talladega. So I'm very happy that we got to have him on the show, and I plan on having him back. Because there's a lot of things I want to touch base with him on. There's a lot of other questions I want to ask him as far as growing up on the autism spectrum and as well as the NASCAR series. So we'll definitely have him back on. We'll do a 2-part, you know, with Armani. But thinking about, you know, our interview today, our conversation, and And it's funny, you know, it's not every day you get to see the first NASCAR driver with autism and the first NCAA Division I college basketball player with autism have a conversation together. This was special to me because we got to achieve that today together. And my positive message for you guys this week can only be one thing, and that's to never give up on anything or anybody in life. And Armani had challenges in his life. He had a lot of them, but he kept overcoming those challenges and obstacles in life. And the one thing I've always loved about Armani is he didn't let his autism stop him from becoming a professional race car driver with NASCAR. He used it. He was proud of it, and he still is to this day. And he's proving to everybody, not just those in the autism community, but those outside the autism community that, hey, you can do things in life despite having challenges and obstacles. No obstacle is too big to overcome in life. You can get through them and you can achieve it. If you have dreams and goals, go for it. And I'm gonna piggyback off what he said. You got dreams in life, go for them. You know, it's like I tell folks in my presentations or whenever I go out and speak, be relentless in everything that you do in life. Go get your dreams and goals in life. You got to go get them. You can't just sit back every day hoping and praying that dreams and goals are going to come to you in life. That's not how life works. That's the lazy approach in life. Don't take the lazy approach. Get up every day. Go get your dreams and goals in life. You got to go get them. Be relentless in everything that you do in life. Be relentless when you go to sleep, when you wake up, when you go to work, when you work out, whatever. Go get your dreams and goals in life. Because at the end of the day, we don't dream our lives. At the end of the day, we live them. Armani Williams is doing that right now. And he's not done yet. He's just getting started. But at the end of the day, folks, don't ever doubt anybody in life because they have a disability or they have something else in life. Because at the end of the day, that person's going to prove you wrong. And in the future, they're going to keep saying, place your bets on me because I'm going to win. So thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of your month. We will see you on the next episode of the Center Podcast. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you.
Anytime you're shortcutting it, you're probably cheating some people. Players play. Tough players win.